Okay, let's go ahead and move into lesson 4.6, which is piecewise and step functions. And with these functions, something new, but we're going to be dealing with a lot of different pieces to this, so this can get kind of confusing. So I want to make sure that you understand this lesson. So be sure to take notes, listen carefully, stop the video when you need to, and of course ask questions if it's necessary as well. Okay, so first part is the warm-up. So the warm-up, we now have an equation that's in slope-intercept form. So when I say slope-intercept form, remember it's the y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. So in this particular example, m is equal to -4, and b is equal to -3. So we're going to go look and see where any of these lines cross the y-axis at -3. So notice this one does right here. So that would be line number 2, which is blue. Notice that is my equation there. But also we can look at the slopes. So notice here we pick a point that we can identify, and we pick another point we can identify down here. So we have a point right up here, and we have a point right here. And knowing those 2 points there, remember that the slope -4 is really -4 over 1. What does that mean? Remember, the negative sign either determines up or down. This number here is always going to the right or to the left. So 4 over 1 is the same thing as 4. So this says go 4 down. This says go 1 to the right. So we go from this point, 4 down, 1 to the right. There it is. And that's why A is identified with that one. But we can look at just the intercept in some cases and figure out some of these numbers as we go through it. Okay, so this is just a warm-up just to get you ready. The answers are here. Good thing to just test yourself and just see if you get the same answers as you're looking through these particular problems. So what are piecewise and step functions? So a piecewise function looks something similar to this. So we have, sorry about that. So we have, I clicked the wrong thing. I thought I clicked that. Guess it doesn't move anymore. So anyway, so we have a piecewise function here. And so this here means that we have a straight line, then we have some kind of curve, then we have another straight line. So a piecewise function means that we graph a whole bunch of different types of graphs or of equations, and we put them all together. So they kind of they can connect. They may not always connect, but the piecewise just says between these two x values, which would be 0 and 15, the line is a horizontal line. Between 15, and it looks like over here, which I can't see the value, between 15, and it looks like 60 splitting up in 3, so it looks like 65. So between 15 and 65 on the x-axis, we have a parabola. That's what this is called. And then starting at 65 on up, we have another line, but this one has a slope, so that's a regular line. So that's piecewise. A step function looks literally like a step. So notice here for the number of chocolate bars, if we have 1 chocolate bar, it's going to cost us $1.50. And of course, if we want to purchase 1.5 chocolate bars, which doesn't make any sense, we're still going to just get 1 because we can't buy a half of a 1. And then when we buy 2, it goes up to $2.50. When we buy 3, it goes up to $3.50. When we buy 4, it goes up to $4.50, and so on. So that's what's happening here. So it's saying anywhere between 1 and 2 chocolate bars, it's costing us $1.50. Between 2 and 3, it's costing us $2.50, and so on. Okay, so mathematical standards and practices you don't need to worry about. We are going to identify and graph these piecewise functions and also step functions. So I already described what a piecewise defined function is. That can have any type of equation. So it can have lines, parabolas, polynomials, all that stuff we're going to learn to a certain extent in this particular class. It may not be a while, but we're going to learn all those pieces. A piecewise linear function means that every single piece of the function is a line, so a straight line. A step function, as I mentioned, looks like steps. And a greatest integer function just says what is the integer value above it. So when we're looking at something like that, for example, if we're trying to find out how much does it cost per student on the bus, and a greatest integer would say, well, we can have 2 students, that's going to cost us $20, right? $10 each or something like that. And then When we're looking, though, at the greatest integer, we're saying, okay, if we have, we can't have 2.5 students, but if we, if we're looking at that, that doesn't make any sense. So the next integer up would be 3. So we can price out how many 3 students are, how many 4 students are. It's kind of like that chocolate bar thing. You can't buy a half of a chocolate bar as a fundraiser. You have to buy the whole thing. You can't, and so you can buy 1 chocolate bar or 2, but you can't buy 1.5 chocolate bars. And that's kind of what the greatest integer function is. We're not going to really get into that much. We're really going to talk about the step function. Okay, so as I mentioned, piecewise is just a bunch of different functions all put together in a graph. And these translations and reflections are the things that come up. So I am going to do this in another video, so we'll come back to that and talk about this piece in another video.